I'm jealous Star Wars movies are happening again, but Star Trek's aren't. By a frustrated trucker who just wants big screen warp trails again. Star Wars is gearing up for its next cinematic era, complete with bold new timelines, the return of fan-favorite characters, and lightsaber battles that will no doubt echo through pop culture once again. Meanwhile, Star Trek, my first sci-fi love, is stuck in neutral. There's no clear path forward for Starfleet at the box office, and it hurts. I'm jealous, frustrated, and more than a little concerned that Star Wars is boldly going back to theaters while Star Trek seems stranded in dry dock. I don't say this lightly. I've been a lifelong Star Trek fan. The kind who debated the Prime Directive in high school essays, watched The Wrath of Khan every year like a holiday ritual, and wept quietly at Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, because it marked the end of the original crew's journey. But right now, it feels like Star Trek is missing from the most exciting part of the modern media landscape, the cinematic spectacle. And watching Star Wars take center stage again? It stings. Star Wars is thriving on the big screen again. Let's look at the facts. Lucasfilm has not one, not two, but multiple Star Wars films officially announced or in active development. We've got James Mangold's Dawn of the Jedi exploring the Force's origins. Dave Filoni is uniting the Disney Plus series in a theatrical crossover event. And Daisy Ridley is returning as Rey in a film set years after the rise of Skywalker, building something new. Like it or not, Star Wars is back in theaters, and it's making moves. There's momentum. There's money. There's risk-taking. There's a plan. And what does Star Trek have? A few vague interviews. A maybe someday fourth Kelvin film that's been in production limbo for nearly a decade. Oh, and an abandoned Quentin Tarantino pitch that probably died so spectacularly it left a warp core breach in the timeline. That's not to say Star Trek is creatively bankrupt, far from it. Strange New Worlds is a triumph. Lower Decks is a love letter to everything we've ever adored about the franchise. And Picard Season 3? That was pure, nostalgic fan service in the best way possible. But it's all happening on television. Meanwhile, Star Wars gets both Disney Plus series and theatrical event films. You see where the jealousy comes in? Trek was once the king of sci-fi film. This imbalance didn't always exist. There was a time when Star Trek dominated the sci-fi cinema conversation. The Wrath of Khan and First Contact were not just great Star Trek movies, they were great movies, period. Star Trek offered philosophical depth, character-driven stakes, and moral dilemmas far more thoughtful than the average sci-fi blockbuster. Then the Kelvin movies arrived, starting with J.J. Abrams' 2009 reboot. They brought Trek back to the mainstream with a flashy, lens-flared vengeance. And for a brief time, it felt like Star Trek might be the new pop sci-fi king. Into Darkness and Beyond had their flaws, but they gave us Chris Pine's charming Kirk, Zachary Quinto's intense Spock, and a real sense of cinematic scope. And then, silence. Years passed. Rumors flew. Writers came and went. Noah Hawley's film? Cancelled. Tarantino's pitch? Dead. That original idea from Anders Toby Haynes and Kalinda Vasquez? Still nothing. The promised fourth Kelvin movie with Chris Hemsworth returning as Kirk's dad? Vaporized. Meanwhile, Star Wars has lined up a theatrical roadmap as if the sequel trilogy's backlash never happened. It's unfair. Why the world still needs big screen Star Trek? There's a common excuse: Star Trek works better on TV. That's partially true. Trek's serial nature and episodic morality tales fit television like a glove. It always has. But that doesn't mean it only belongs on the small screen. In fact, Star Trek needs film for the franchise to stay relevant globally. Television Trek, even at its best, still plays mostly to the faithful. Films have the power to bring in new fans, broaden the scope, and remind the world that Star Trek isn't just about talking in conference rooms, though we do love those too. And Trek deserves a film that matches its modern potential, something that blends the emotion of the voyage home, the stakes of First Contact, and the cinematic polish of the Kelvin movies. a film where Starfleet explores strange new worlds with 21st century special effects and storytelling, not just fan nostalgia or TV budget action. What's holding Star Trek back? The easy answer: money. The last Trek film, Star Trek Beyond 2016, underperformed financially despite solid reviews. Paramount has been hesitant to greenlight a new movie without a guaranteed audience. The Kelvin cast contracts expired, and reassembling them means bigger budgets and tighter schedules. And let's not forget the streaming revolution, which pulled attention and dollars towards serialized storytelling. But there's also a lack of vision. Star Wars has Kevin Feige-esque figures like Dave Filoni and Kathleen Kennedy charting the course. Trek? It's a revolving door of producers and ideas. Alex Kurtzman runs the TV side, but the cinematic wing has no steady leadership or roadmap. Until that changes, Star Trek will continue to drift. What kind of Star Trek movie should happen? Let's stop trying to resurrect the past. The Kelvin crew? Great, but their story feels complete. The next gen cast? Let them rest after Picard Season 3. The solution is not nostalgia, it's boldness. Give us a new crew, a new era, maybe even a new Federation post-burn, post-collapse, post-reformation. Set it centuries after everything we know. Show us a future where Starfleet is myth and its ideals are rediscovered. Make it visually stunning. Make it accessible. Make it about what Star Trek always was, hope in the face of darkness. Or flip the formula. What if we followed a non-Starfleet protagonist navigating a fractured galaxy? Or a first contact story from the alien civilization's point of view? Star Trek has the flexibility to be anything: science mystery, political thriller, emotional journey, or epic space war. It just needs someone brave enough to push the warp engines. The Star Wars comparison hurts, but it's a warning. Star Wars has made mistakes. We all know that. Rise of Skywalker, anyone? But it keeps trying. It fails forward. It invests in new creators, new timelines, and new stories. That's why it stays in the public conversation, even when fans argue. Star Trek, on the other hand, keeps hesitating. And in Hollywood, hesitation is death. Every year without a film risks Trek losing cultural momentum. It becomes something people remember fondly, not something they experience. That's not good for the franchise or its message. Star Trek was always meant to challenge and inspire. But it can't do that if it's stuck in neutral while Star Wars is flying full throttle. My message to Paramount: let Star Trek fly again. Dear Paramount, Star Trek deserves to soar. It deserves a cinematic future, not just a streaming one. You have the legacy. You have the fan base. You have the goodwill of the 2020s television revival. Now, take the leap. Take the risk. Assemble a creative team who believes in Trek's potential, not just creatively, but commercially. Make it smart. Make it inclusive. Make it big. And yes, make it fun. I'm tired of being the sci-fi fan looking at Star Wars with envy while my beloved Star Trek gets left behind. I want to stand in a dark theater again, hear the thrum of warp engines, and feel that swell of emotion when a Starfleet ship emerges from the stars to do the right thing, no matter the odds. Because Star Trek isn't just a franchise, it's a vision. And visions deserve the biggest screen possible. Until then, I'll keep watching Star Wars trailers and pretending I'm not jealous. But we both know the truth.